Hello, I'm Pioneer Staff Reporter Jonathan Epley. We're here today to continue our coverage of the upcoming city election. Joining me today is City Commissioner candidate David Grimwood and Pioneer Editor-in-Chief Dave Clark. Thanks for being with us here today.
No problem.
Tell me a little bit about your experience. What's governmental experience, and do you have, and what's your, a little bit of your work history?
Well, the only government experience I have really is 10 years in the Navy. This is my first election ever. I've worked as an oil changer for big rigs, before I joined the military. I was in the military for 10 years, right after that, shortly after high school. I recently was working at the Northside Admiral here in town on third shift. I've driven truck, and right now I'm unemployed and looking for work.
And David, what will be the biggest asset you could bring to the City Commission if elected?
Something new. I don't know exactly what that is yet, but it's because this is my first campaign, first election. I'm hoping I can bring new ideas, a new vibe, and maybe even a new culture to the City Commission.
David, as a city commissioner, you'll often hear from constituents about city services and the quality of the services that they receive.
Mm-hmm.
Give me an example of a city service that you've received that you thought that the service itself was less than satisfactory, and then I want you to give me an example of a city service that you think works very well.
I think a lot of the city services around here work very well. The only downfall about a lot of the services in this area is getting it out to the people who need it and how to use them.
Can you give me an example?
Not anything in particular off the top of my head, but I mean, through all government, there's a lot of paperwork, red tape that people just don't want to deal with, so they don't even bother to try. And in that gets lost in how do you apply for different programs? How do you do this? How do you, do that? I mean, if you have, your water bill and your trash bill, it's simple. If you have a problem with it, you go to City Hall and you ask them about it. But if you need services from the city and you can't get an answer, you go to City Hall and you can't get an answer, you go, God forbid, you get a runaround. Where do you go next? Who do you talk to? That's what I think needs to be more clarified, not only locally, but globally.
What do you think would be a way that you could get the word out, as you said, to the people that need those services? Do you have a solution?
The papers that definitely went around. Almost everybody in town reads the paper. I know that from working at Admiral. Saw a lot of them there. Public announcements. Even as simple as putting a letter in with the water bill that everybody receives. We have this program available. This is who you contact for more information. It's that simple. It's clear, cut, to the point, and it don't cost a lot.
Do you think the city could utilize its website better?
Sure. I haven't been there recently, but why not?
David, this is your first election anywhere. What made you decide to run this time?
A whim.
A whim?
Yep. I sat back one night and, as I usually do, I was reading the news and playing on Facebook and watching TV all at the same time, and it hit me. I can do this just like everybody else who's out there can do it. The next biggest decision was, where do I start? And I figured, well, why not locally? Because if I can make a change locally, maybe in the future a change will happen down the line that's bigger.
Okay. That being said, do you have any aspirations to go to the next level, maybe state government?
I don't know yet. I kind of figure I'll start locally, see how it goes, and when and if the time comes, I'll make the decision then.
two of the most valuable constituencies for the city commission are small business owners and families. What is something that the city commission could do to make Big Rapids a little bit more attractive and viable location for those two constituencies?
For families, we need to attract more businesses for more jobs, period. So I guess this is actually qualified for both. Like, I moved my family up here out of the military because of the Housing Commission. I was going overseas. My mother-in-law lived in the Housing Commission, as she still does. It was easy for me to get my family in because I was a government employee, automatic acceptance. So it was an easy stepping stone to transition from Virginia to here, and my family was in a safe place where I felt they were safe while I was overseas. We came back here. My wife loved the schools, so we bought a house here. What I found out since I've gotten out of the military is there's no jobs here. Unless you want to work at Admiral or one of the oil changing places or minimum wage, you can't make it. You got to go to Grand Rapids, Mount Pleasant, Cadillac, or over the road and you leave your family again. We need more, not more factories, because my dad worked at GM for all my life. And I tell people, I actually watched him rot there because he never got to do what he wanted to do. He was on their timeline, on their schedule, and he didn't have a choice in the matter. That's not how people should live. People should be able to go out, do what they want, and live how they want, not how a business wants them to live. And I believe if we can give people more opportunity to bring their families here and open small businesses, so the minimum wage jobs can go to college kids to help pay their tuition. This is a great area to do that in, and I believe it can grow.
What about housing? You mentioned the Housing Commission helped you in your search for a place to live. One of the criticisms of Big Rapids is there's not as many family homes available for people who might want to relocate here. Is there anything the city can do to help spur that sort of development or that sort of growth, especially as nationwide is sort of stagnant now?
Well, I don't know if the city can particularly do anything, to move towards that. I think we need a lot of help from the state and the national government to do that. I know there's, just behind where I live, there is a development area where it looks like somebody developed the land to sell plots off for housing. It's empty. There's one house up there. I mean, there's plots of land. I think I inquired about it once, and they're going for about, I think this was a couple of years ago, they were going for like $40,000 for a plot. I don't know what the price is now, but used modular home goes for about $30,000. For $70,000, you can have a nice home just outside the city limits in a nice little country setting for less than what houses were going for a few years ago. So the potential's there, but we have to have the businesses and the small business opportunities here in order to develop that.
Somewhat of a follow-up question to that. We have certainly reported on projects between the surrounding townships and the city, some of the things they've worked on together, like sewer systems, things of that nature, where they're all stakeholders in the same kind of a project. You mentioned that if elected to the city commission, you hope to bring sort of a new energy or a new atmosphere to that. What's your opinion of the relationship between the city and some of the surrounding townships? Do you think there's a spirit of cooperation there?
I believe there is.
On both sides? Or?
I do believe there is, because a lot of people in this area think the same way, want the same thing. They want, I believe people in this area want smaller government. They want a nice area to raise their children, safe, which Big Rapids is fairly, safer than most areas. But I believe that most people just want to live how they want to live, not how a government wants them to live, or how a business wants them to live, or big money people want them to live, how they want to live. And I believe
that even the surrounding communities believe that too. Most of the people in this region believe that, and I believe that's why we all live up here. You know, because we're not near Lansing, we're not near Detroit, we're not near any major cities. I mean, the closest one's 50 miles away, and it's Grand Rapids. And even there, they kind of think the same way. Leave us alone. Let us live how we live. Let us live how we want to live. And let us build our community the way we want it. So I believe we can work with surrounding communities and townships and strive for the same thing.
Working at Admiral gas station, certainly you had the opportunity to see people in town as well as Ferris students.
Yes.
So describe for me what you feel is the state of the town-gown relationship. Do you think it's very strong, that there's a lot of interaction between Ferris and Big Rapids, or is it moderately successful, or do you think that it's poor?
The interaction is there. Some of it's poor, some of it's good. When I was working at Admiral, I had coworkers that went to Ferris or were going to go to Ferris. But the main thing I've gotten out of work, that I got out of interacting with the community, working at Admiral, was there's two sides of Big Rapids. There's the people who have money and the people who are struggling. And they make that distinct line. When I actually campaigned at Admiral while behind the counter, because I have no money to do it anywhere else. And I heard more than once, good luck getting into that ring. That ring, and well, what do you mean by that? Oh, that ring is, the stuffy old conservatives of this town. Good luck getting in there. Basically, they were telling me I wasn't going to. I don't believe that. I don't believe that anywhere in this country. Will it be difficult? Yeah. I have no campaign money, I have no signs out there. Nobody knows me. But it can be done.
Now, of the Ferris community that you heard from, do they feel that Big Rapids is a welcoming town to them, or do they have a less than positive way to describe the relationship and the way that they feel they're treated here?
The majority, I believe, like this town. But then again, you have a 50-50 debate on that with the college student population. When you talk to them, it could go either way, because you know as well as I do, college kids, mice are, cats are away, mice will play. They're going to do their underage drinking, and they're going to, party, and they're going to have a good time. And if they get caught for underage drinking, and if it was recently, they're probably having a bad day. They probably have a different opinion about it. Now, if they haven't got caught, they probably have a very good opinion about the area. So it just depends on which day you catch them, I believe.
If you were elected to city commission and you could focus the city manager and the city government resources on two areas that you think need improvement or need to be addressed, what would those two areas be?
I'm not going to say there's any specific area. I think there's a lot of little things in a lot of different areas that could be improved.
Do you have an idea of two projects that you might like to see done?
Not off the top of my head. I'm more of a, let's see how it comes. What comes up? What needs to be done? I believe more of when projects do come up, that they should make sense. Not just, oh, we got an extra couple $1 million, let's do this, even though it don't need to be done. That makes no sense. Where we could take a couple extra million and maybe put it back for something that needs to be done in the future. Or something that really needs to be done, take care of it.
David, the city recently contracted with a third party to collect funds from at-risk or at-fault drivers who cause an accident. They're seeking funds from the city and police departments that have to do cleanup at the scene and respond. Is the city out of line in trying to collect these funds?
A lot of people hire, a lot of businesses, a lot of communities will hire third-party able to collect monies that are owed, because it's usually cheaper than hiring the employees to do it yourself. So I don't believe they're out of line. I believe they're just doing what everybody else is doing and trying to save a little bit of dollars.
Yeah, the concept isn't so much of the third party as much as it is going after the at-fault drivers and insurance companies. Typically, these are services performed after, say, a traffic accident, drunken driving, someone was speeding and they caused property damage. They've caused an accident that the police and fire department need to respond to.
Mm-hmm.
So that issue of recouping dollars spent when the fire engine leaves the station, the amount of hours that a police officer has to spend there at the scene. Do you agree with that concept of going after dollars from individuals and insurance companies to help
If
pay
they're at
for
fault.
public safety?
If they are at fault. I'm sorry, if you drink more than what, and drive with more alcohol than the legal limit allows, and you cause an accident, you are at fault, you should pay. That's why there's laws in place for that. If you cause property damage, I mean, if a drunk driver jumped in his 4x4 at the bar and come hurling down your street and goes to reach for his lighter for a cigarette, hits your house, should you pay for it? Or should he pay for it? It's not your fault. I mean, it's the same thing as if you rear-end another car. Your insurance pays for that to fix that other car. It's the same concept. Whoever's at fault must pay.
So they would pay for whatever police and fire services that
Why not?
required.
Why should the city pick up that extra cost because somebody, was being stupid?
Now, as a follow-up to that, and one of the things that's been debated with this move is that, on some degree, there's a concern that might be received as being petty, and certainly with the amount of college students here, most of which don't pay city income tax and they don't pay tax on their businesses or homes, so they would be one of the groups that this would affect the most. Do you think that reflects poorly on the city in the college community? Do you think that'll be somewhat controversial there, that they feel they're being targeted?
Well, it goes back to the underage drinking. Do they feel they're being targeted for underage drinking? I'm sure they do if they get caught.
Yeah. Are they feeling targeted for a third party going after them for, something that they're at fault for? I'm sure they do. But on the other hand, for the students that are out there obeying the laws, not causing accidents, not causing damage, and not using up police resources or fire resources where they could be used elsewhere, I don't think they have a problem with it. My neighbor is a volunteer firefighter for Big Rapids. I see him take off on, drop of a hat, gone 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, easily, at a fire, or, whatever the call may be. Should we as residents pay for his services if somebody's at fault? And, why shouldn't the city recoup that money? Because otherwise we're just wasting money. Yeah, I believe that the city is right on track with that. If you're at fault, you should pay, whether you're a resident or not.
Thanks for joining us today. Pioneer hopes that this series of interviews helps voters make educated decisions during the November 8th city election. For more coverage on the city election and the candidates, please visit www.bigrapidsnews.com.